say, gains in the technology landscape with their focus on sustainable development and digital solutions. They are poised to make a significant impact in shaping Indonesia's future.
Good morning everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good morning distinguished guests and honorable speakers and moderators. How are you all doing today? It is my pleasure to welcome each and every one of you to BVT Tech Summit 2024, Mapping the World, a Journey into Sustainable Growth. My name is Hani. Yeah, thank you so much. It is such an early morning, guys. My name is Hani, and I'm so thrilled to be your host for this incredible event. And a little background on BVT Tech Summit. It's an annual event hosted by Bumi Varta Technology, a leading company in geospatial and location data technology started from 2022. We are committed to focus on the emerging innovation and technologies. So, are you excited for today? Yeah! Okay, to begin today's event, I would like to invite you to sing the national anthem, Indonesia Raya. So, ladies and gentlemen, please stand up. Dear guests, please be seated. Thank you. So, let's begin our agenda this morning by inviting Martin Tarpelowski as the founder and president commissioner of BVT to come onto the stage to give a welcoming speech. Martin, the floor is yours.
Yes. when the music stops. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for everybody for joining. Luckily, we've managed to achieve a full house, which is very difficult sometimes in Indonesia, with a lot of last-minute bookings. People calling me at 10 o'clock at night, asking if there's still room. People asking if they can send other people. So yeah, it's good to get a full room of people, but also people who can actually maybe have an impact on the future of our business. So I think it's, thanks so much for all the panelists who've given up their time today, and also to the moderator, and obviously to the team, because you know these guys have worked so hard to actually achieve this. So just a quick introduction from me, if people who don't know me. I have been in Indonesia 6 years, and I've been in Asia over 25 years. My slides are disappearing. I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, I've been in Asia over 25 years, previously in Tokyo and Hong Kong, where I was working in finance. So yeah, totally changing business. I became an investor in Indonesian technology. So yeah, this is me. Moved here originally to be an investor in a company, and then ended up taking the company kind of over and managing the company. And now we have over 150 people in BSD. And I think when it comes to B2B, we're probably certainly one of the biggest proprietary makers of software in Indonesia, which is still a very early stage when it comes to B2B, and especially software as a service. So, you know, when I started this business, a lot of people said, this is never going to work. Indonesia, too early. They were right, to be honest. And then COVID came. And I guess we just continued to push and push. And, you know, it got to the point where you passed the point of no return. You spent too much money. And then you think, right, I've got to make this work. And luckily, it appears that we are making it work. And it's really good to see before the video of some of the clients giving their opinions on the product, which, so thank you for coming and thanks for doing that. So yeah, I'm basically the company mascot. I'm not involved with the technology, luckily for the technology. I have professionals to do that, like Mike Min and Kevin, who are here today. And I just focus on annoying people like you guys to come to this event. I also focus on any kind of marketing because, you know, I was a salesman for 20 years, so I'm pretty good at the sales side of things and not much else really. So next. So yeah, you know, anyone who knows me well, and you know, when I first came to Indonesia, some of the valuations and businesses shocked me. I, as the man over here, we talked about it quite a lot, and we had many discussions in relation to, you know, how I had different opinions maybe. And I had a severe concern about how a lot of the technology here was being valued and how it was actually working. And I think we've seen it in the last few years, you know, that the valuation business has ended, and anyone left holding the baby has had a lot of problems. So the numbers are shocking. I don't think completely unexpected. You know, at the end of the day, there's got to be a business plan beyond paying for revenue, and I've always maintained that. You know, it's easy to get your revenue up if you're doing things at a massive discount. And you know, I've had people come to me and said, if we use your software for free, you can use our brand, and you know, we're a big brand in Indonesia, but the problem is, once you've given away free, they're not going to pay next year. So we could have probably had higher revenue by now, but we've stuck to our guns in relation to, you know, you have to have a proper long-term sustainable business plan. And yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy to do business here. You know, a lot of the companies are, you know, old companies. The big FMCG has been around years. They're the more successful businesses. If you look across the tech sector, it's been pretty hard for anyone to actually make significant money. And it is hard, no doubt about it. You know, it's been one of the biggest challenges of my life. And it's involved a lot of, you know, blood, sweat, and tears. And I don't think it's going to get any easier for the next few years. So you've got to really, like, you know, bite down on your gum shield and keep pushing. But I do believe Indonesia has the opportunity still to be very successful in the technology sector. I personally, and I've always said this, think it needs to be more focused on more technology, longer term, sustainable business models, B2B, B2G, because the trouble is, from my perspective, and I'm not saying I'm correct, in the B2C business, it's basically you are paying often for the revenue side of things, and you're not. It's very hard to turn it around. Just because there's a lot of people doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be highly. Population's huge, but you're losing per client. The losses are going to get bigger. So there's so many things that I think there needs to be more. Rather than just do apps, let's build longer-term strategy. But for longer-term strategy, there needs to be a different strategy in relation to the investment world. Because at the end of the day, no one from the VC world would ever have touched BVT because it takes too long. You know, we cannot turn a valuation round on a population basis. So how do the people who don't have their own assets get access to capital for a software as a service model? So I think hopefully there's going to be some realization and some changes to how people allocate money, and then look at the real potential of Indonesia as a market to upskill and do things beyond just apps effectively. Next. So yeah, I mean, the only thing about this is I showed this slide last year. Not the same, changed it slightly. But I mean, I think the last 2 years, the president's come out and said exactly the same, that we have, I think the number is astonishing, 36,000 apps in BUMN. And I think of those 36,000 apps, most people couldn't name very many. And the budget was over $300 million. This obviously is a huge challenge. The fact that so many businesses here are in silos, they're not linked together, even in the big conglomerates, and different companies within the same conglomerate using different software. This is very different to, for example, where I was before, Japan, with a very top-down approach, where, I'll get onto it in a minute, one of the reasons I'm expanding to Japan is because Japan has the second biggest number of global brands, and it's all top-down. So I just need to get a deal done in Tokyo through the connections I already have, and they will use it across Asia, basically. Whereas here, even in an organization, I have to go to 5 or 6 different people within an organization. So it's more difficult to get, and that's why a lot of people really fear going down the route we've gone down, which software as a service. Most people are like, well, Indonesia is not ready for that. And as I said, it's been a challenge for us, making people understand it. Because with software as a service, you need roadmap for software, roadmap for technology. It's not the way things have been done in Indonesia. Everything is done project by project. If you do business project by project, I'd never seen it till I came here. Use your budget, project by project. It's not really going to be a lot. If you do a roadmap with long-term planning, obviously your returns and the company is going to be more successful than having multiple different projects set up every year by a new head of transformation, etc. So, but this is still a challenge. We are still educating people what the value of software as a service is and what the value of a roadmap is, not just project by project. Next. So yeah, it's again, a lot of our business is education. We've now got a 5-year track record, which allows me to talk to some of the bigger partners and system integrators, some of the biggest clients in the country. You know, some of them are here today, so obviously that makes a much, and it helps us also fine-tune our software. You know, when you're dealing with the Astra Hondas of this world and the SC Johnsons of this world, you're able to learn from them what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. Because when you're building a modular software as a service system, you don't know, you're starting from scratch. You don't know what people want. You don't know what is good for you, what is good for the client. So we've had a lot of mistakes, and we've wasted money by making mistakes. However, as you spend longer doing it and get better clients and more clients, you can then start to actually really work out what works for FMCG, what works for F&B. Because it's my belief that it's absolutely crazy still using old processes for making decisions. I cannot get my head around people still using Feng Shui to decide where to build a corner shop or whatever. And people will tell me to my face, no, I have to go and feel for it, Martin. I have to feel for it. I'm like, boss, but why are you counting people when you've got live telco data? It doesn't make sense. It's job creation. Yeah, I'm not getting into that, but there's a lot of job creation still going on, which could be solved. And at the end of the day, upskilling is a big thing. upskilling here. There needs to be a huge amount of upskilling, because when I was first started working, we had typists, and typists don't exist anymore. So, but there is not a lot of unemployed typists. They just upskill to do different things. And I stole that off another guy at an Indonesian Economic Forum thing before. But it's true. People need to upskill. And the benefit of having some of these major players come to Indonesia, like, this is why I would really encourage the government to welcome the big boys here under more favorable terms, because that will result in upskilling. Instead of all, ex-Grab, ex-Gojek, we're also going to have ex-NVIDIA, ex-Microsoft. And therefore, you're going to have a more skilled workforce for the future who has experience beyond, just applications. Who've actually you've got more and more software developers. Somewhere like Vietnam now, there's a huge amount of software developers. It's getting more and more upskilled as we go along. So next. So yeah, this is just a little bit of our product. What have we done recently to change it? More and more modular, so we can just pick out different modules for different clients. This is obviously, it was always the aim, but when you're starting from a blank piece of paper, it's very difficult. So yes, we still build enterprise software, but our idea long term is have everything modular. So we no longer, and it's far more scalable when you know what clients want, and you can sell the same product to all the FMCG companies. You can sell the same product to all the F&B companies, to the mining companies, the government. Once you've actually got that experience and learned what the client wants, you can then enhance the features. Next. Next, yeah. So this is just, very quick, and this just shows that, there's an opportunity globally, what we do. Geospatial is very new, but it's one of the fastest growing sectors around the world. And this is just something we picked up, but, BVT is actually being researched in the United States, apparently. So, we also we believe the market is huge. And we've always said that we wanted to be the first Indonesian company, from a technology perspective, like deep tech, that actually went into other countries. And now we are in a position where we believe we can do this. We have to adapt our approach to fit local needs. But there's a lot of potential. As I said, I named Japan because I have connections there, and they have a top-down approach. So getting business done there is actually a lot easier, and you can cover a lot more clientele. So, next. Yeah, so why these? Initially, we're looking at these two countries for expansion, and why is that? Japan, I lived there for 12 years. My partners in this business are Japanese, so obviously that is an effect. We have the connections at the very top in Japan to push our product. But despite the fact there's more competition in Japan, they are far more open to software as a service and things of this nature. So it's not new to them. I'm not educating people. There's always been the argument, what's best, blue ocean or red ocean? We jumped in blue ocean here. That has many benefits, but the negative is you spend the first few years educating what exactly you're doing. So I think Japan, even though the demographics in Japan are not beneficial, because of that, the companies like Uniqlo, who are here today, are expanding their business massively across Southeast Asia. So the potential to get working with these big boys across the whole of Southeast Asia is becoming increasingly possible. So I think Vietnam is a different story. Vietnam is also a lot of growth, but also they're very open to FDI. I went recently, the equivalent of BKPM picked me up at the airport. They took me to somewhere. They treated me like Elon Musk. And I was like, calm down, guys. I haven't got that much money. But I think that shows a distinct difference to how people maybe treat us here. As a foreigner building a technology company from scratch, we fit all the, we are building tech, we are foreign invested, and we hire 150 locals. You would think that the BKPM would be very positive in relation to this. But not always the case, I would say. So Vietnam, I think we are just, at the moment, and we're not starting from scratch again, because what we'll be doing is, using distributors, etc. So it's a different business altogether. So we've actually got the software, and we'll use distributors. So I think, I'm just reading this, and it says 0000. So I think I'm over time. Right, sorry guys. Right, okay, is that the last slide? Next. Oh, that's it, good luck. Right, thanks guys, thanks so much, and God bless Indonesia.
Thank you so much, Martin. Oh my God, are you okay? Yeah. Thank you so much for the insights. Interesting take on Feng Shui, though. Yeah. Okay, now the moment we've all been waiting for. We will start our first panel discussion with the theme Navigating Business Landscapes in a Digital Age. And please welcome our moderator, Chandranata Rekso Sosro Jojo as Strategic Initiatives Lead Tokopedia.
Hi, good morning, everybody. How's everyone doing today? Wow, full house. Good to see everyone's faces. Again, extending Martin's welcome to this year's BVT Tech Summit. A bit about myself. My name is Chandra. I'm the strategy lead for the FMCG team at Tokopedia. Martin, I won't comment on your comment on overvaluation, not my place. But I've been at Tokopedia for the better part of the last 3 years. A lot happening right now in the company, as you may have heard. But I'm very excited to welcome some of the esteemed gentlemen that will be joining us on today's first panel. First, I'd like to call back to the stage Martin Typilowski, founder and president commissioner of Bumi Varta Technology. Welcome, Martin. Now, next on our list, we have the esteemed gentleman, Pat Noke Kiroyan as well. Would you like to join us into the stage from chairman from Kiroyan Partners? The next gentleman on my list will be Pak Herwan Ng, who is the board and committee member of IDX listed companies. Welcome, Pak Herwan. And last but definitely not least, Pak Dharma Simorangkir, President Director of Microsoft Indonesia. Welcome, Pak. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here today at the very first panel of today's summit. As you've seen and has been introduced as well, we're looking into discussing on navigating business landscapes in a digital age. But perhaps before we start the panel discussion itself, I'd like to ask a reflective question to the audience, actually. In just the past couple of months, how many news articles, podcasts, or wherever you get your information have you heard about new applications of artificial intelligence? And we pull it back to maybe the last 2 to 3 years. How much have you read about how social media has impacted human behavior and society more broadly, and how it also has impacted businesses, how software as a service has also impacted the way that businesses operate and generate revenue? I think the short answer is too many. And given all the noise that we're all facing as managers, as business owners, as regular employees, I think it's very important to be able to cut through the noise and see what's really relevant for each and individually in our context and our businesses as well. And in that spirit, I'd like to ask the panel, maybe starting with Pak Dharma, actually. Could you share with us a little bit about some of the current trends and challenges that businesses in Indonesia and more globally as well are facing in their operations with technology?
Yeah, thank you so much, Chandra. First of all, a round of applause for Martin and Bumi Varta.
Yeah.
For hosting such a great breakfast, in the busy days, and thank you also for the esteemed speakers. To the question, right? So I think before I go into some numbers, so I think it's just important that I think it's really good way how you say it, cut through the noise. I think it's very imperative today that with all this technology enablement happens, that we should reach, I like to call it the zenith point of doing business. So a zenith point is basically the highest point in the sky. Is actually 90 degrees from any observations that you're doing. So if you in your company today doesn't have a line of sight of the zenith point or where your business is actually going to go through, commenting on Martin's feng shui and other traditional methods, I think it's important to be aware that, being left behind, and being irrelevant to the market, would be one of the imperative. At Microsoft, we weren't the first to start with AI, right? But right now, I think we can say that we are leading the race on AI, on the artificial intelligence. We're not saying that we win, we have won the AI race, but we are leading the AI race. And it's really about us looking at that zenith point in our business, in each of our business, and in each of your business, and how do you, being able to drive your companies from all directions and from all directorates, right? We're in a tech summit right now, but I believe that technology like AI is not for AI, right? It's a platform, it's a tools where you are actually enabled now, to deliver and achieve greater things. So I think having line of sight of that zenith point is just crucial when we all, come out of this room, being able to inspire to do something new. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Dharma. Pak Herwan, do you perhaps have anything to add to what Pak Dharma has said?
Yeah, thank you, Pak Chandra. Yeah, I think I agree with Pak Dharma, what Pak Dharma said, and especially on your opening, right? I mean, I have myself also reading a lot of news about technology. Everything is about tech, and we have so many applications. But I do believe that naturally, it will be selected which one that will win the race eventually. And also picking up from Martin's comment, we always exchange, opinions, yeah. Although I'm also helping the VCs, but I think I would disagree with the way actually where you look at the company only really from the valuations perspective. Because as a former, I'm still an accountant, right? Coming from the accountant backgrounds, one of the keywords that I always look at is the going concern of the company. So if you look at the landscape itself, right, it's not healthy when a company burning a lot of their capitals only to reach the growth at the top line, but at any cost, right? So for me, and also in my roles now, when I look at the landscape, I trust that the companies that will win the race later on is the companies that can really use the capital wisely, right, to generate profit, because I think that's the essence of the business. And recently I also read a lot of things which is in my area also on the corporate governance. A lot of businesses actually collapse not only because they cannot compete, because of the idea is not good. There are a lot of good ideas. I met a lot of good founders, tech founders, yeah, because I'm also a mentor in Endeavor. There are so many good ideas, but those founders are simply like a very good chef, but they don't know how to run the restaurant, right? They can cook a very good food. They have a good ideas, how to bring the foods, but they cannot serve it in the restaurant. They don't have the support system that help them to run. So having said that, I think since the tech winter, I think we learn a lot in the tech industry, how we should be moving forward. I think that would be my comment.
Thank you. And just to direct a little bit to maybe Panoke for my next sub-question, Pak Dharma as well as Pak Hermawan, Pak Dharma specifically has mentioned that it's important for businesses to know what their zenith point is, what their, I guess, North Star is as well. Knowing that you've worked with many mature companies, would you say that these companies know better about their zenith points, or actually in the, I guess, topic of technology, they're equally lost as everybody else here today. What would you comment on that?
Well, first of all, I'm lost. I was born in 1946, the same year as 3 living former presidents of the United States, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump. So that means I belong to the first generation of baby boomers. In other words, I'm a dinosaur in this room, okay? So, but that gives me the vantage point of someone who has gone through the era of the Industrial Revolution to the information age. Martin mentioned about the typist, a non-existent job these days. But when I started my job, my first job, in 1972, typists were all around. That was the age of mechanical typewriters. And then we got the personal computers. And to me personally, 1986 was a very important year because then I started using personal computers. IBM XT. Does anyone remember the word or the term? IBM XT. It has a memory of 128 kilobytes. And using floppy disk, I see a lot of people who are probably approaching my age smile because they remember floppy disks that have a capacity of 180 kilobytes, one side. So the later developments had 2 sides, so meaning 360 kilobytes. That's the size of one file, these days. And the memory is 128 kilobytes. Nowadays you use 1 megabyte, at least. Let's see, Microsoft, of course, is a big beneficiary of this, but I'm happy that I've gone through this because I know how it was before, and I'm still following technology. I'm trying to, at least, with my old mind, trying to catch up. All these information about developments, AI, and I actually tried ChatGPT earlier this year. And I told my team of young people, try it, because if you don't try, you don't know how it works. So you don't talk about it, but you try it. And I'm glad that I'm living in the world of technology because it makes life much easier. I'm not looking back. I'm not nostalgic about the old days, but also personally, I think I do a lot of reading, and I'm probably one of the early users of Amazon.com more than 20 years ago in Indonesia. I'm happy because without Amazon.com, I would not have all this access to the latest literature that I'm still trying to follow. I'm still trying to get used to all those, to digest all this information that you mentioned, Chandra. But again, I think without technology, you would not be able to master all those intricacies of the modern business world. So technology is a must, and even if you have difficulties like I do, try to catch up with what's happening, because it's actually very exciting. So without technology, there wouldn't be no business, I would say, these days. And to do business well, you have to understand at least where you can take advantage of technology. That's my view, and I think we will see further developments in the future. So that's my take for now.
Thank you, Mike. I think that actually segues really nicely into, to do business, you need technology these days. To do business, you need technology these days. I guess I'd like to bring it back to Pak Herwan here. You did mention that, governance, corporate governance is very important, that you can't especially just be good chefs and not know how to run a restaurant. So do you have any tips for people who are looking into opening a restaurant business per se? what kind of good corporate governance, what would it look like in this digital age?
When I hang out with the young people, I love to use the analogy with them, right? Because people are so scary when they heard about corporate governance. So I told them that corporate governance is not just something that you need to have when you are at the size of publicly listed companies like Bank Mandiri, for example, or BRI, or BCA, or any other listed companies there. So it's not as scary as that. So I use the analogy of Marvel movies. So if you watch the Marvel Avengers Endgame, to actually combating Thanos, you need a very large team of Avengers, right? But for the startup companies, you don't need that, right? It will be overkill. So I always said to them, if you watch the series from the very beginning, you will notice that at the very beginning, the Avengers only have 6 original team members, right? So that's what you need to do also for the startup companies. You need to have the governance, the right governance from the very beginning, right? You don't need to overkill with a large team, but even if there's no one fully dedicated to corporate governance to watch over or to look after that, it has to be at the top. Whoever's that, the founders and also the board members, has to lead the governance processes, right? Because only with that you can keep the company ongoing, right? If you look at the recent trend, I think, just 2 weeks ago, I read one of an Indian company, I think billions US dollars, also facing issues now under investigation. And there's only one word, corporate governance, right? Which is the root cause of what happens to them. So in terms of the tips, I would say that, yeah, first of all, embrace it. When you're in a business, you need to know what you need to do. So the founders and the leaders, you need to put the very basic corporate governance in place, which is very simple. If you look at the guidelines, we at the Corporate National Committee of Corporate Governance, we have issued some guidelines. I'm also having SC Ventures actually to put on a playbook on corporate governance for startup companies. If you look at the principles, there are not many there. Basically, corporate governance is help you to look at how the board members governs the businesses, right? It will shows you some of the best practices. You need to have rules, you need to have ethics, transparency. Those are basically some of the very basic concept that you need to have, right? And from there, you can, of course, build your roadmap. If you want to exit, if you are a startup founder, you want to exit through capital market, then you need to build the roadmap, how you get through the corporate governance requirement that needed for listed companies and tick the box, each of them. But you can start from the very beginning, right? For example, have a sizable board members that have the right qualification, right? Not just a bunch of, I would say founders that only know about sales, right? But don't know how to run the company, don't know the financial numbers. That would be a disaster, especially for the young people that just graduated from the university. You get a lot of money, like millions of US dollars from venture capital, and you never see that much of money in your bank accounts, right? You don't know how to use it. And I've seen some founders actually, the first thing that they do is increase their lifestyle, right? That's not the right things to do, right? So, yeah, I think there are so many things that we can do, and but I would recommend you can look at also the companies that mature enough in your industry, how their journey from the very beginning until the current stage now.
Thank you, Pak Herwan. Actually, I'd like to give the stage to Martin now. Having witnessed, I guess, the feng shui and inkling-based economy that's happening here in Indonesia, what is corporate governance like now in your own observation, and do you have any comments or points on that?
Now it's working. Yeah, I'm not, as I say, with my situation is I was never an expert in technology or corporate governance, but And at the beginning, probably, we didn't have enough things in place in our organization. And we've learned the hard way. We've had things go wrong and, you know, things we didn't really like. And now we've gone down the avenue of getting things right. You know, I was always quite old for a founder, to be honest. And I was also the investor as well. So I was far more likely to be governing where the money was going when it was coming from myself and my close friends. So we had like a kind of rough, disorganized before. Now we've gone down the avenue of ISO and getting everything done properly. Outside myself, though, I think it's quite different because often the person is a founder is not putting their own capital in. So they don't have skin in the game. And, you know, I do see a complete lack of corporate governance. You know, I don't know how, you know, if you're a founder, how high salaries are agreed. Because obviously your aim in that business is to make that business successful and you win in the end. I mean, it seems to me that in some cases here, it's been allowed people get paid on both sides of the deal, which, you know, from my partners, for example, I don't think that it would be remotely acceptable, me paying myself 6 figures, etc. You know, I'm in the long game, right? But yeah, I think as Herwan said, I mean, you see people suddenly getting a lot of money, sometimes hundreds of millions for an idea, which I've seen in the last few years, and it blows my mind. And you know, some people who know me well I got here in day one and I said this is going to go massively wrong because half of these things can be copied overnight and they're only related to the revenue number. As Herwan said, there's nobody looking at the actual, there's no CFO half the time, a proper CFO. You know, there's no proper accounts people. A lot of them are mates. Yes, they've all got MBAs. I get it. But that doesn't necessarily, you couldn't fly a plane if you had an MBA, right? And you couldn't be a brain surgeon. So I find it hard to understand why people think they can suddenly manage huge amounts of capital and manage a huge business without bringing in professionals. From my point of view, I brought in professionals because I'm not capable to do it myself. Whereas I see from the younger founders, they want to do it themselves because they think they've got this education, they can do it. I think having an education is one thing, but having the experience and the ability to manage, you know, your investment or a portfolio of investments it's not easy. You know, this is why if you're working in a regulated market, for example, you need 10, 20 years experience before anyone will listen to you. But that's not the case here in a lot of businesses, right? You know, you get 25-year-olds getting $100 million off their friend from university who now works at a VC. Well, of course, there's going to be an issue with corporate governance. You know, the private markets are not regulated, and this is the big problem. I've discussed this with you know, a few people. I'm doing training next week in BVT Bank, and the boss is over there. And yeah, we're discussing this, that there's a major split between private markets and capital markets. So I've never worked in the private markets, but I can tell you, everyone I know who works in capital markets doesn't understand the other side. All my friends, older than me. So when you start IPOing businesses, the issue you've got is that you need the capital markets guys to understand your price. And they don't. They just don't. Nobody who'd worked in capital markets would have told you to buy a lot of the IPOs that we've seen in India or the SPAC market. Everybody knew. Any insider who has actual knowledge knew. But again, it comes to the lack of corporate governance. I mean, how did people get to be allowed to invest that level of money without some looking at the reality? I mean, the amount of money that's been spent is, I mean, you could have built another NVIDIA for the amount of money that's gone on half of this stuff. And I think that's what they need to focus on, not quick money. But the trouble then, there's no accountability, is there? Because if you've taken $100 million out of the business and your company's going down, there doesn't seem to be any accountability here. You're still doing okay for yourself, right? So that's a big difference to a more regulated market with better corporate governance, where that just wouldn't fly. It wouldn't fly. So I think there needs to be increased regulation in the private markets, because I do think there's so much opportunity, as Dharma said, around AI. But the problem is, if you just see in the usual suspects wrap something in ChatGPT and tell everyone, oh, it's worth $100 million, and their mates from a VC will give them the money. That's not how to run an economy. And that's potentially dangerous for the long term, because a lot of this stuff what's happened in relation to these valuations was totally preventable. Most of these companies could have made a profit years ago. However, they were pushed and pushed and pushed to just keep on extending and extending and extending. And eventually, of course, if anyone understands economies, and people as old as us guys know that interest rates have cycles. And to act like it's surprising that interest rates are now going up, it's just shocking. I mean, you've got people on TV saying, oh, can't believe it. If interest rates didn't go up, we'd be fine. I mean, that's not a serious comment. I mean, interest rates go up. And if you are investing hundreds of millions of dollars of somebody else's money, you should be aware of that. So yeah, there needs to be more and more governance in that respect.
Governance, regulation, and education, then I guess is a triangle of perfect scenario for investment, especially in young technology companies. You know, I'd like to actually ask Pak Dharma another question. You know, we've talked a lot about you've introduced yourself in terms of the current trends and challenges. Pak Herwan has also addressed the issue of corporate governance. What I guess some of the strategies that companies can adopt in digital transformation and technology adoption, you yourself being from Microsoft. And I'd like to kind of frame this conversation not just within the context of perhaps large corporations, but also SMBs, small medium businesses, which we know makes up a huge part of Indonesia's economy today.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think the first myth that has been going around is people are, oh, what's your digital transformation strategy? Actually, there is no such thing as a digital transformation strategy. It's actually about your business strategy, right? How do you grow the value for your shareholders, for your company, for your employees, for your customers? How do you create that values? Now, digital is actually a part of that actually can accelerate. Most people doesn't realize that, I don't have a chart with me, but if you look at the history, the technology adoption actually has a very straight correlation with the GDP growth, for example, the whole world. And the trend today, starting from Industrial Revolution, but is actually getting faster and getting bigger in terms of the lever to adopt technology. So Satya Nadella once said that every company now is actually a software company. So what does it mean? It doesn't mean that you're producing software. Software company means that you're using data. And that is actually the whole point of a digital transformation. How do you generate, how do you collect data, how do you derive insights from the data, use all kind of tools, Microsoft tools, other tools, and make decisions based on data. So, and that tremendously, accelerate the process of value creation and innovation within our companies. And this goes actually not for big enterprises, right? Startups, small, medium business, derive so much value when they can actually leverage. And I also have to say this, that we are actually past the digital transformation era. Now we are actually entering the AI transformation era. So at Microsoft, we see the industry is actually evolving towards that. And when you are trying to grapple what to use with AI, so Microsoft just did a Work Trend Index survey. I can share with all the audience about the report, right? Just recently in June, we published it. So I think a couple of interesting facts. The first one is 92%, so we did the survey for 30,000 respondents in 31 countries, and we have specific numbers for Indonesia. So for the Indonesia, it's actually 92% of employees have adopted AI in their current work. So this number is actually much larger. The global number is 75% of people who are being surveyed, and 85% in Asia Pacific. So Indonesians use AI, right? Whether it's a chat GPT, whatever, in their work. And 92% of leaders of the company also think that their company needs to use AI, right? But what is sad is that 47% of the company feels that they haven't developed, what the AI tools that they have to build, to facilitate their employees. So what I'm trying to say is that it should be what we see, it should be a top-down approach. If you are business leaders in whatever capacity, organization leader, it is on you to ensure that your company, your employees are facilitated, are enabled, to become experts. So it's no longer about the IT and the business units. It's about convergence. And I think the capability on the tools that we have today, the platform technologies on AI and data, this actually enables you, to reach that business goal. So just imagine if you use Martin's BVT technology and to make decisions on where you put your point of sales, where you put your next stations, for transportation hubs. Make decisions based on data, and you can actually do that really fastly. And I think right now, with this democratization of technology, startups, companies, small companies can also get access and affordable access to technologies to make those data-driven decisions.
Thank you, Pak Dharma. I'd like to go back to Pak Noke, actually. I think Pak Dharma mentioned a little bit about, there's no such thing as a digital transformation strategy, but we have to be open to the changes that the world of technology brings over to us, given the fast pace of it. Now, we know you yourself are enthusiastic about the future and are very willing to learn, but do you foresee that perhaps in many traditional companies in Indonesia that there will be a lot of friction in adopting this? Because we did see this when the internet first came to rise. We did see this for the first 5 years of that. What do you think is going to happen in what Pak Dharma refers to as the age of AI?
Well, I think there's no escaping AI. And I agree that we have democratization of technology, and that's part of doing business. Without mastering that, you won't be able to conduct business in the modern world. The amount of data available, if you cannot use them, if you cannot process them in a way that will be useful to run your business, you're dead. So it's a matter of competition. So if you're not doing technology, if you're not involved in that, you'll be lost against others who are using it. So to me, I think it's not a matter of digital transformation, it's just part of doing business. Because I don't differentiate between the time before I use personal computer. It's just a normal progression. That's the way to do business, and if you're not doing that, you'll be lost against others who do. So to me, it's a matter of survival. So if you want to survive, you have to know what's going on. And, well, there's a lot of data, of course, these days. You're overwhelmed. But that's where technology comes in again. You can say, use AI, say, for instance, ChatGPT. But, of course, you can try to digest that, but you still have to use your own reason to know what's useful and what's not. Because otherwise you will not be able to make sense of all that data. So to make correct decisions, you have to have as much data as possible, but you have to also be able to digest that and to use that in taking decisions. But without data, without the support of data these days, I don't think they will be able to survive. So it's a matter of survival.
Thank you, Pak Noke. Last question and last topic from myself. I'd like to bring it back to Martin. Going back to the relevance of BVT itself, applications of AI. advanced analytics, and of course geospatial intelligence. What do you think these three things, what role do you think it will play in the transformation process for businesses, besides the obvious and besides what you've presented earlier on today?
I mean, AI, you know, it's like it's only really existed 2 years, if you believe the hype. I mean, we've been using the original machine learning AI since day one. We are looking at other options for the new generative AI, but we also don't want to jump down a rabbit hole without knowing what we're doing, right? So at the moment, by using predictive analytics to make better decisions, you can save a lot of time. You know, as Pat Nocky said, all the data's there, the ability to visualize that data is there, the platform to use it is there. I think the biggest issue here is, and I think AI is going to have an even bigger problem here, is the pushback. Because there's a huge, in England, people are worried about AI taking their jobs. Here, people are worried about my software taking their jobs, to be honest, you know, because what we can do with our platform can do the job of many, many people, you know, and that's just an honest. And that's why I think upskilling is very important. You know, there's still a huge BUMN sector here, long-term with the digital transformation. Within these organizations, there still is pushback from some sectors, not all, but some. So getting, I think, a national technology or czar or something like that, somebody who, you know, leads from the front on technology. From my perspective here, things are too spread out. So actually having a digital strategy from a country perspective is hard. So some people really embrace AI and really embrace geospatial software. And some people don't want us anywhere near. You know, I was at certain government conferences last year as the only bule, and people looking at me like, why are you here, mate? Because you know, our software has an ability to do things far quicker than probably thousands of them, to be honest, you know, and therefore there needs to be this ability to move to other sectors. You know, this is why I'm really, you know, we have this ongoing conversation, will Microsoft, will Apple, will NVIDIA open here? No, they won't under the current registration. So people can bang on tables as much as they want at events. They won't under the current situation. They need to have a competitive environment, as in Malaysia and Vietnam. Because if those companies come here with proper software and an ability, and Indonesia starts making its own products. The biggest technology companies in Indonesia don't make a product. They don't make anything. They're importer of foreign software. So, I mean, we've been around 5 years and we're one of the biggest proprietary makers of software, right? So there needs to be more people buying into it long term. And this is my argument always with the investment here. It's all about exits. We start a business and it's about an exit. Well, do you think NVIDIA, do you think Jensen started NVIDIA thinking about exits? No one knew who he was 2 years ago. You know what I mean? So you've got to have a long-term strategy to get to the top. You know, you're not going to overtake all these other countries in the technology landscape until there's a buy-in from the very top beyond applications, and also really embracing some of the foreign entities here who can come and help with the upskilling and everything. It's got to be a fair deal, you know what I mean? And I think there's so many things that can be help the people, but there is always going to be a bit of pushback here among, are these people taking our jobs, etc., etc. That needs to be, I believe, the mentality needs to change, because for the country to move forward, it needs to, as these guys said, you can't live without technology. And I'm actually amazed how some companies and the government, some sectors, are currently still doing things. And there needs to be a greater embracement of technology, yes.
Thank you, Martin. I think that's all for today's panel, actually. If I could kindly summarize, you know, we started with Padharma, stressing the importance of companies knowing their zenith point, their pinnacle point, their North Star in their journey of digital transformation. But we also discussed the importance of good governance, and even for small, medium businesses or startups, how important it is, as Baharwan mentioned, to have that governance. And I think Martin also inputted that regulation, education is also very important in this area. Strategies in digital transformation, unfortunately, there are no specific strategies. As Padharma said, it's all about adaptability and also survival, as mentioned by Panoke. and that friction is something to be mindful of in the adaptation of AI and technology more broadly, whatever may come in the next couple of years, and as mentioned by Martin. I think that's all for today's panel. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, fellow panelists, for joining today's discussion. I think, if I'm not wrong, we have time for 1 or 2 questions before we end the panel. Yes, please, gentlemen, over there.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to us all. My name is Mirza from UMG ID Lab. We have experienced what Martin said earlier, right? We've invested in about 50 startups, right? And we gave millions of US dollars to fresh graduate, actually. And indeed, a lot of problems. My question would be, what would be the business landscape in the future, considering the AI growth, right? And then the lack of updated education program currently. Even without the AI, already our education is actually maybe 15 years, okay, outdated, right? Because I have asked a lot of entrepreneurs, right? They have problem matching the education background with the requirement at work. And we consider it normal that we have to train the fresh graduate 1 year to 2 years, right? In order to be able to do the job at our office. And what do you think the balance would be, considering the AI gap that already there even before the AI came? So my question would be, is it very important for us to really transform our education program to suit the future? Because if you don't start now, in 5 years, the problems bigger and bigger. A lot of functions would be replaced by the AI. It will be here to stay, right? We cannot avoid it. But if we don't start to transform our educations, and it's our task actually here, right? To push the government to do it yesterday, actually. So what is your opinion about this? Thank you.
Who would like to take on this question? Yeah?
Yeah, I think at some point the change has got to happen, as you say. And we've been banging on about it for the last few years. And just getting over the hump, right? I made a quote before from the president for the number of applications in government. And that's the same quote I've used for the last 2 years at a different time. So we are 3 years on, and we're still making 30,000 apps, right? So there does need to be a distinct change. I mean, as I said, I don't think AIs are great, but it's not the only part of technology. There is a lot of technology that can still be used. Not everything has to be. I think everyone's gone a bit too far on the change your email address to .ai, or change your website to .ai, and suddenly you're basically ChatGPT wrapper, right? So I think realism, AI is very, very hard to make money out of. The big boys have already got it sewn up. You're not going to be able to beat the big boys. So a lot of these AI startups have a lot of potential issues. I think everyone raising a lot of money, but we know how much money Microsoft's losing on AI at the moment. How much money, and all these guys are losing money on AI. Let's get to the facts, right? So AI is a great thing for the future, but let these guys, they've got more money than all the VCs. So let them put the money into AI, right? It's how I think, how other companies adopt AI and use AI. Like, so, not, oh, it's AI. I mean, the specific purposes for it. In our business, the specific purpose is to predict movements of people, to predict where a client should open a business, to predict where a FMCG company should expand their business. But yeah, I mean, as he said, the gap is still there, and the education, but how are you going to get the education there when still there is a lot of pushbacks in central government to using updated technology? Outdated business processes is something I face every day of the week. You know, so how are you going to get that to change unless you've got to have a full buy-in from the government on this? And yeah, I mean that's my opinion.
Anyone else would like to add on?
Yeah, maybe because Martin mentioned my name, the company's name a couple of times. I think maybe the first one, just to update Satya Nadella, when he came here, he actually announced the infrastructure investment on cloud and AI, Microsoft AI and cloud infrastructure investment in Indonesia, so 1.7 billion US dollar. So I think, yes, Martin, we will invest here. Is the first one. But I think the second one also, he also announced about upskilling, so about 840,000 people in Indonesia, also talent, will be also educated on AI, of course, also on cybersecurity. But I think just now I mentioned also the 92% of knowledge workers in Indonesia actually have adopted AI in their workplace. So what I'm saying is that Indonesians tend to be more adaptive on AI. And I think the notion about, of course, yeah, some jobs will be shifted. I think that's no doubt, right? Just like with all technologies, but what we see actually, we position AI as a co-pilot instead of a pilot. So it's not replacing, but it's actually providing assistance to you in each of our roles. And what is the role that you are in today? What is the student is studying today? And they should have a co-pilot. And this is how Microsoft position it, is actually we are as the pilot, you know, to make better decisions. Just like in the old days, calculator, right? You know, do you know that there was a protest done, you know, in back in 19th centuries about calculator? Teachers went on a protest about the emergence of calculator because they were afraid that their jobs will be replaced by a calculator. What happens? No, the calculator stays there, the teacher stays there, but on how we execute, how we deliver things is differently. So I think it's also a part of us to try. You know, Satya Nadella once said, on AI, do it, right? Do it, you know, live with it, try it, right? And then you will see how actually all of us can actually do that. And I just also last week attended the UT, Universitas Terbuka. They opened up their first data science in Indonesia, program studi Sarjana S1 in Indonesia for Universitas Terbuka. You can see how advanced now also teachers and students are actually adopting AI. So I hope this will be the time for Indonesia to leapfrog, right? By the use of digital and AI as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dharma. I believe we are out of time. Again, thank you, fellow panelists, for your insight and for your time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in this discussion today.
To all the panelists and the moderator. To all the Mintun as CEO BVT to come onto the stage for giving all the gentlemen here appreciation certificates.
Thank you very much for coming and as always, thank you very much. I'm okay. Great to see you again. Thank you very much for coming. Just
Do I get one?
Yes. I do.
Very inclusive, mate.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.